Hello everyone, my name is Koushik and welcome back to LetCode. In this video, we are going to see how to extract ID from any node. So far in our series, we have discussed what is content.js and also what is eventpage.js and also what is manifest.json file. In our previous video, we have discussed how to send message using the chromes.tabs.sendMessage to our content script. And in the content script, we are able to receive that using the runtime.onMessage add event listener. I mean the add listener function, right? In this video, we are going to see how to extract an ID from any element. When I do right click and click on get XPath, I want to get the ID if there is any ID available in that particular node. So before that, we have to wait until the DOM loads completely, because if the DOM is getting loaded, if I do the right click and I try to get XPath, it is going to obviously give me wrong XPath, because until the DOM completes the load fully, we cannot say that the elements are stable in their nature. So for that, we have to wait until the DOM loads completely, right? So for that, in JavaScript, we have a listener called DOM content loaded. So we are going to use this, and using this we are going to wait until our DOMs loaded fully. Then we are going to add another listener. So let's see how to do this first. So here the code is very simple. I'm just going to copy this and here I'm going to paste it here. And let me explain you as well. So here we are using this window object, that is my entire tab I can say, and I'm adding an add event listener. That is means it is going to listen for what are the actions we are going to do. Now in this case our action is not any click or type something like that. Instead we are just waiting for the page to load completely. So for that we are using DOM content loaded as an event listener. Now here we have this is out statement. So I'm just going to check whether it's coming or not. So for that I'm just going to go to my extension tab, and here we have some error. Let's not worry about it. We will fix that in a while. So let me refresh this, and if I go to a site, and here also I have to refresh. Now if I go and inspect, here I can see that I should see message, but unfortunately we didn't get this. The reason is simple. We know that whenever we are going to do something related to extension and the web page, we have to get the permissions. Now we are using this content script. That means it is going to run in our background forever, but we have to give that permissions like when the content script has to be loaded, because if it's going to keep on running in the background for all the time, obviously it is going to be consume much memory, right? So for that we have to say when my content script should load it. So we have to load once the page has been loaded successfully, right? So in Chrome API, we have this content script permission where we have set our matches, that is in which domain we have to run and also where our content script is located. Similarly, we have to give this run at. Run at in the sense it is going to like execute the content script once the page has been completed or if the page is idle. So in our scenario, we have to focus either on the document start or document end. But of course, as soon as the document is going to be load, we want to start our content script to execute into that. So for that, I'm just going to use this document.start permission. So in my manifest.json, here within this content, I'm going to add another attribute that is going to be run underscore at, and here I'm going to pass document dot underscore start. So that's fine. Now let me go to my extension tab and let me refresh this and let me refresh my page again. Now here you can see that we got the message successfully, right? And it is coming from our content script, that is this line, right? So of course we are able to load our content script into the UI I can say, or into the web page I can say, but now we have to identify the elements, right? So the simpler task here is when I do right click and when I go to this mouse down event, right? So I'm doing the mouse down and I'm clicking on this get XPath. So at that point I want to fetch all the nodes from there. So the action whatever we are doing here is mouse down, right? So I'm just going to create a function for that. So let's say that once this has been loaded, I want to call my first function, that is it is going to be init function. So let's say that init, and here I'm going to create this init function. So function and init is nothing, just a function name, which means like we are doing the initialization of our listeners. Okay, and here I'm going to say mouse down listeners, right? So for that document, that is I'm going to look for the page, then I'm going to add a event listener, and within the event listener I want to check for the mouse down event. And here I have to pass, not pass, it is actually going to give us some events, right? So whenever we are going to do some actions, it is going to give us some event. So in the callback I can say it is going to give us some event, so I'm just going to make it as event. And here I can just log this, so log, and here I can say event dot target. Do not worry about this target, let me explain you. Before that we'll fix here as well. So if I mouse around, if I read this documentation, here it says that second argument, that is we have this boolean operation optional. So this tag is going to be useful when there is a state, like when we have to capture the events. So for example, when set to true, the options capture fallbacks are being invoked when event phase attribute values bubbling phase. Bubbling phase in the sense when it's going to wait until it's going to load the actions completely. Set this as false because we don't want to pass any callback once the action has been completed. We are not going to use anything. So here I'm just going to make this as false here. Now if you don't get this, do not worry, just consider like when we do mouse down action, do we want to call any callback function? In our case we don't want to do anything, so I'm just setting the value as false. So that's it, pretty much fine. Let me just go to my browser, and if I go to the extension and refresh, and if I go to my page and if I refresh now, okay, so here it says int t is not defined, so probably I have done some spelling mistake. So let's check. So here it says init and here it's int t, so that's the problem. So let me change this, and let me go to my extension and refresh, and again page refresh, and right click, voila. So we got this tag name, right? So this is this tag name. If I go to this console, and here you can see that here it's an input tag where it says type equal to name and id equal to full name, then placeholder equal to first name and last name, right? If I go to my console, here you can see the exact values what we have there. That means we are able to get this entire node. Let us see for some other thing, maybe this one. So here it's in the h1 tag and it has some card title as a class and this text, right? Similarly, if I click on this disabled field, so obviously we are able to get this. So I can say we have reached almost 30% of our extension. Now building XPath is very simple, just we have to play with the strings. Let me explain you that as well. We are just going to check if the ID is unique in our DOM or not. Okay, if it's unique, we are going to print that. So first, let me create a global variable. For example, let maybe I can say target element. So target element, and we are going to set this as null by default. Fine, yes. And let me cover this. Okay, so event dot target is actually an in terms of JavaScript, I can say whenever we are going to click on something, it is going to return that object, okay, where the event has been dispatched. That means we are doing some right click options or mouse down options in any node, right? So we want to get the objects from that node, so that is what this target means here. Okay, now if you have noticed, whenever I do right click, it is going to give us the this thing, right, that we are able to get the entire node. But that is again like performance issue. We do not have to build the XPath for each and every right click, because users sometimes might not need the XPath, but rather they just want to do some click action. So in that point, obviously we should not build our XPath. So that is the reason we have learned message passing. Now if I go and do right click and click on get XPath, at that point alone I want to build my XPath. See, here we are getting this message as get XPath, right? So we are going to use that message and then we are going to build that. So here we have a global variable as target element. We are going to store this thing. So whatever the target we are going to get, we are just going to store that to a target element in the global level, so that I can use that in any of the functions, right? So here in this receiver function, we are getting that message, right? So from the background page or the event page, we are getting the message in here, right? So here I'm just going to check for a if condition, and here I can say message dot type is the variable name we have set there. So let me check again. Yes, so here we are sending the message as an object within the type value, right? And the message value is going to be get XPath. So I'm just going to copy and here I'm going to check that. So of course triple equals because we are comparing string, right? So in JavaScript, if it's going to be string, obviously we have to use the triple equals sign, right? And here I'm going to say, let me print this as well so that we can understand. And here we want to say that we are going to do the extraction of the elements, right? So here I can say extract, or maybe I can say parse DOM. That will be meaningful, I believe. So parse DOM, and this is going to be a function. Now of course we have to create this function here, so let me just copy and paste it here. Okay, so let me comment this line here. So we don't want to print the statement whenever we are going to do the right click. Rather we want to print only when we are going to get the message as get XPath, right? So when this message is going to be invoked, this method is going to be called, right? So here I can just log my target element that we have already stored in the global level, right? So let us see if it's going to be working fine. So let me go to my browser, and here if I go and refresh, and here if I go and refresh, now if I do right click, obviously I won't get any message. Now if I click on this get XPath, so we got the message and also we got the entire node as well, right? So trust me, after this is going to be very very easy. If you understand what is the use of this add event listener for DOM content loaded, and this this mouse event, I mean mouse down event, then it is going to be very easy. So I hope this makes sense to you. So of course it's going to be very easy at the first point. If you are learning JavaScript for the first time, this add event listener or this some keywords maybe cause you some problems to understand, but trust me, it is going to be very easy. Now what we are going to do is we are going to just print that ID from the target element, right? So here I can say console.log target element dot id is the value, right? Now let me go to my browser and let me do the refresh. Now if you have noticed, I'm doing so much of refresh. That is how Chrome extension you have to debug. So right click and get XPath, and here we got this as full name, right? Let me just copy this, and here in the element let me paste it. So of course we are getting one of one, so obviously the ID is unique. But how do we know that it is going to be unique, and here we are getting this one of one, right? So how do we know that? If you remember my previous video on JavaScript to find XPath, so that is the logic we are going to use here in this particular, I mean to get the ID locator, we are going to use that concept. But we will see that in next video. As of now, we are able to find this full name. Similarly, if I want to find the placeholder or the name or the type, I can still do that. Okay, so let me go and log it here. So console.log, and here I can say target element dot maybe placeholder, and what we have, so we have this type as well, right? So I'm just going to log again, and here I'm going to pass this target element dot type, right? So let me go to my browser, let me refresh, and let me refresh, and if I do go to my console, and if I do right click, get XPath, we are able to get this full name, the first name, and the text, type equal to text. Okay, so this is pretty much enough for this video, I believe. So in the next video, we will see using this values how we are going to build our XPath. Now, just in case if you want to do along with me, you can obviously grab the source code. This is going to be entirely open source project, so you can grab all the source code from my GitHub repository. I will leave the link in the description, so kindly check that. And if you like my video, consider giving a like and subscribe to the channel, and see you in the next one very soon. Take care, stay home, stay safe.